Hi, I'm Eileen. I'd like to read you something I wrote on the subject of grief this week. We grieve for many reasons. All grief is a loss of some kind. It could be the death of a loved one. It could be a broken relationship. It's anything that you've held near and dear to your heart, and when you lose it, it leaves a void. I hope you'll sit back for a few minutes and join me. Last night, I happened to look at my Facebook page before going to bed. I saw a post from a friend that made my heart ache. Her beloved husband passed away suddenly at 40 years old, leaving her and their 9-year-old daughter behind. They are numb with grief and shock. Grief is no respecter of persons. It comes like a thief in the night. 22 years ago, I was in that place. People meant well, but I found the ones who truly brought comfort were the ones who had been where I was. They were the ones that knew what to say, and sometimes they didn't have to say anything at all. They were just there. Grief affects everyone, but each of us will process it in our own way. First comes the shock, and then you go numb. After that, a myriad of emotions will surface, such as sadness, loneliness, anger, and depression. You can stuff everything inside, but the best thing to do is feel the emotions. Recognize them for what they are. They're not a sign of weakness. They're necessary for healing. The news of my friend's husband brought back a flood of memories of how I immediately kicked into survival mode. I remember telling my children that we were not going to be mad at God. That was denial in its greatest form. Little did I know that was exactly what we needed to do. It was bound to happen, and it didn't help to deny it. Many years went by before I realized how angry I was. I was angry at the doctors, myself, and my husband, but I was mostly angry at God, because after all, couldn't He have prevented it? I was good at telling people how powerful He was, and I believed He could do anything. So why didn't He? I wrestled with this for a long time. For the first 10 years, I couldn't even pray. My faith was so shaken, my children were crushed, I was crushed. All I could do was go through the motions, pretending I still believed. People would come to me and ask me to pray for them, and I felt like a hypocrite. As I said before, each one of us processes differently. My children were grieving, and I didn't know what to do. Laura was 10 when Rob died. She was her daddy's little girl, and suddenly there was a void I couldn't fill. Laura and I would get helium balloons and write messages to Daddy on them, and then go outside and send them to heaven. We'd watch until they disappeared above the clouds. One of my other children shut down emotionally. He cried the day his father died and never again. Every fiber of our faith was tested, and some of us walked away from God for a long time. Some are still trying to figure it out to this day, and I can't help but wonder if they'll ever reconcile with their grief. Recently, someone reminded me of this verse. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hid their faces, he was despised and we esteemed him not. It's talking about Jesus. I never gave much thought to his human side. He has emotions just like us. He grieves just like us. He knows what it's like to be sad and suffer pain. Somehow this brings me comfort. It reminded me that everything we go through, he did too. He understands our pain and our grief because he's been there. He didn't have to, but he did it for me, and he did it for you. I don't know anyone who would do that, let alone God. He did it out of love. If anything I said resonates with you, I encourage you to grieve. Talk with someone, write out your thoughts, feel the emotions, and then lay it all at the feet of Jesus because he understands. If you need support, there's an organization called Grief Share. They'll come alongside you. It doesn't matter how long it's been. Grief has no timeline. You'll never get over your grief, but you will get through it. And I'm here today, 22 years later, as proof that you will get through it. Do I still grieve? Yes, I do. Because you don't get over it. It's a process, and you take it one step at a time. So I'd like to share something with you. This is the last picture that we took of our family before Rob passed away. And every time I look at it, I'm reminded at how faithful God is. He's there for you too. Have a blessed blessed day.